Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations, your authority in navigating the world of homeschooling diverse learners. Featuring Peggy Ployer from SPED Homeschool, Annie Yorty from AnnieYorty.com, Leilani Melendez from Living with Eve, Stephanie Buckwalter from eLARP Learning, and Dawn Jackson from Dawn Jackson Educational Consulting and Tutoring. With over 75 years of combined homeschooling expertise, experiences, and perspectives, this group is eager to share their wealth of wisdom to empower your homeschooling journey. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and get ready for insightful discussions, valuable insights, and practical tips. Give your homeschool the power boost it needs to successfully educate the unique learners in your home.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Today, we are going to talk about decoding dyslexia, unraveling the neurodevelopmental puzzle. And my guest today is the beloved Dr. Jan Bedell, who needs no introduction. Jan has been on the show many times and is the chairman now of the board of directors for SPED Homeschool and also the president of Brain Sprints. And so, Jan, I'll let you give a little more introduction for yourself and maybe just share. It's been a while since you've been on the show, and maybe some people don't know your whole story and just why you're so passionate for helping families who have struggling learners. But I love to have them get a little bit of that backstory before we start.
Okay, well, my name's Jan Bedell, as she said. So for about 30 years, I've been working in the neurodevelopmental field, and I was brought there by my daughter, who had special needs. Actually, this is her picture. Okay, so I guess I don't know if it's glitching or if I just need to keep talking.
Yeah, why don't you keep talking?
So I'm just going to keep telling my story so it will help with this recording. My daughter was born with some developmental delays, and I looked for help for her everywhere, and as you can see, my hair's a little whiter, so it was a long time ago when that happened. And we went to the traditional type of therapies and that kind of thing. We got a little bit of help, but I didn't get the help that I was really looking for until I found the neurodevelopmental approach. It just changed her life, made her life so much better. Functionally, she could read where she couldn't before, and it was just life-changing for her. And at the same time, it was life-changing for me because God said, I want you to tell more people about this. And that's basically what I've been doing all this time, from children with syndromes and severe developmental delays to those that just have a little reading issues to those with, true labels like dyslexia. And so I'm excited to be able to share some different perspective today.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, I think a lot of parents, they just automatically go to, well, my child has now been diagnosed with this, so these are the curriculums we have to use. And they don't even think beyond that there might be some other approach than just trying to use a curriculum to fix their child versus maybe something that is a little more comprehensive and goes deeper than the diagnosis, which I know you love to do. So, but it seems like there's more and more kids being homeschooled.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It seems like there's more kids being homeschooled because of learning difficulties and labels. Actually, the newest research done by the Texas Homeschool Coalition, they found that 25% of kids that are coming into homeschooling now have some sort of learning challenge, which is up from where it used to be for new homeschoolers. We used to look at the whole population. How can our audience unravel this puzzle of dyslexia to help their kids?
Okay, well, that's definitely what we want to do today. It's interesting that you said about curriculum, because so many people are looking for the next best curriculum. And so oftentimes it's just some next form of or variation of the original Orton Gillingham.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you talk about the population so much more. I think I think it's so much more children coming in because the school is just not able to handle the demand. They have very limited resources. They're just not adequately trained to help. As someone that went through teachers college, you are not equipped for special needs when you come out teachers college, even if you have a certificate, a degree. Some moms are thinking, well, I don't have a teaching degree. How can I teach my children, and how especially can I teach my child with special needs? But I just want to assure you, you are in the right place. Your child is in the right place. If you're homeschooling them, or if you're thinking about it, I want to really encourage you. One statistic that I found, that Texas, just in Texas, the rate of children entering special education is gone up 37.5% in just 10 years. Wow. From 2011 to 2021. It's just incredible how the increase. And that's one reason that they can't handle it, because they're the sheer demand. And then they have just, in my view, a very narrow approach to how to deal with dyslexia.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times I'll tell parents, I'm like, the accommodations you're going to get is extra time and one-on-one, which you can automatically get by taking your kid out of school and homeschooling. Those are the accommodations that are given them. And it's like, well, that's, you're already one step ahead if you can accommodate beyond that. So take them out of school and then listen to Jan. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, I totally understand that narrow approach and limited resources. So, why don't you dive in a little bit more to that narrow approach that the schools take?
Okay, so they typically do the 2-year dyslexia program that's been around since Orton Gillingham, and that's like 99 years. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit more. But first I want to just go into why you would want to look in a different way, than you're usually told. You get this dyslexia label. They say, well, you need this 2-year program, and it's either expensive to be trained to do that, or if you need to do it yourself, or to have someone do it for you. And again, it's narrow. It's mostly working on phonetic awareness. But as a neurodevelopmentalist, that's someone that looks at the brain, obviously neuro, and how the brain develops. And we've been finding that it's really not a disease. Some people think it's a disease. It's a disorder. It's even not a hereditary. Sometimes it runs in the families. There are brain scans that show that the brains are different for dyslexic kids. So technology is catching up with us now and showing different areas of the or the brain's looking different. But that brings me to my major point. It's all about the brain and God's design. So you can show that.
That first slide.
Show that slide from.
Okay, so that's Orton Gillingham.
So Samuel Orton, like Orton. I said, in 1920. Yes, he's the one that first named dyslexia. And he said, I've seen these particular kinds of symptoms in these people. They don't all have these symptoms, but a lot of them have a lot of these symptoms. So he said they have balance issues, they have coordination issues, they have eye issues. Oftentimes their visual sequential processing is not working well. And dominance issues. This could be eye or hand or ear dominance. And then there is somehow over the years, all of these other symptoms were either diminished or just set aside, and they do phonics. So basically the Orton Gillingham method and those that followed that kind of did adaptations of those, the main focus is phonetic awareness. So maybe we should go a little bit deeper into each of these things and see how, in our view, we have to drill down. We have to find the almost peel the onion kind of thing to find out what's going on here. Because
look
this
at the bigger things. That's important.
So if you look at all of these things, there's symptoms. And if you have a symptomatic, I call dyslexia a symptomatic label, because if you have a certain number of these things, then they give you that label. But really, everything is controlled by the brain. So if you look at each one of these symptoms, it causes different brain pathways that are maybe immature or inefficient. And you wonder, as a homeschool mom, they knew it yesterday. We put it in, and we had this light come on, and, and then you get it out the next. It's like your brain was a sieve. It just poured right out. You can't even find it. So frustrating for the child, for the mother. You even doubt your abilities to teach sometimes when you have this happen. But just going from the top, like the balance, for instance. So people might say, well, why does balance have anything to do with reading? Well, it's very interesting, because your vestibular system, that's your inner ear, that's where your balance is, and has a lot to do with your balance. And it's right there with your ocular nerves, and it controls, it can control or mess up your eyes. So if you're, if you have this vestibular issue, and you move your head and it's not helping to control your eyes, it can just make your eyes go to another place. Things could appear like they shift or like they're on top of each other. It's really pretty bad when that kind of thing happens. And we see this developmentally a lot of times from ear infections, children that have developed ear infections over time. And the more ear infections they have, the more it affects their vestibular system. So that, instead of just saying that's a symptom, we have to work on their balance.
Right.
There's different activities and things that you can do for vestibular balance. And one of the things is prevent ear infections whenever possible, and that's one thing. We are not invasive, anything that we do, except for recommending ear tubes. So if there's chronic ear infections, it's really erasing some of their development because of those ear infections. So it's important to be proactive about ear infections. So another thing, like coordination, you might wonder, what does coordination have to do with reading? So in our view, coordination, or lack thereof, it comes from a disorganized brain. So a lot of things are happening in our society over the last couple of decades that have caused developmental delays. Like innocently, we didn't even realize.
Right.
So can you guess what some of those might be that caused a developmental delay?
I would say video watching, probably. Just keeping kids off the playgrounds, and they're sitting more. They're not as active. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Those are some very good things. The other thing, and all these gadgets that we put our children in from the time that they're born, the little infant seats that rock, where are they when they're sitting in the infant seat? They're on their back. What about slings and backpacks? They're not on the floor going through those developmental steps, and so their brain is not organized. Then you go a step higher than that, and you've got the saucers and the walkers and all the things that they just seem happier in because they're like upright. But they're not going through the steps, being on their stomach, lifting their head, and building those muscles for sitting, for and looking around, using their neck. They're not to skip the developmental steps, like crawling on their stomach and creeping on their hand walk. That's one thing that happened to me, actually. My parents lived in this small little apartment, and I could just I could just crawl over to something and stand up and just cruise around the room. So I was walking at 9 months old. I did not go through those steps that I needed to go through, and I had trouble. Like in third grade, I'm panicking because it's about time for me to read, and if I've counted the wrong paragraph to where that I've been practicing, then I'm in big trouble. So those, just a little personal experience from myself. And so actually, to do this work, you have to do at 40 years old that with some of these things. So the great thing is it's never too late. That's the really great thing about that.
Absolutely.
So if some people might say, well, my child is 10 years old or 12 years old. What do I do if they miss those steps?
Right.
Another thing, it's never too late to build those pathways, and you would be amazed at how much coordination there is. Your organization of your thoughts gets better. It's just amazing when your brain gets organized at the lower levels. So it definitely affects reading. We're going to talk about is eye issues. And this is something that a lot of people, the first thing you do is you go and get your eyes checked, right? Because they're not reading. Right. Maybe they can't see. Well, most doctors look at, can they see up close? Can they see far away? And that's acuity. But there's much more to what we call vision than just being able to see clearly. So one thing I want to help your listeners understand is that you can actually check at home to see if the child's eyes are working together. So you just take a little pencil topper, something like this.
Yeah.
You're about 18 inches away from the child. It's about arm's length. And you're going to point the object right at their nose. So you're going to start out at 8 inches, go into about 2.5 inches. Then you come back out slowly, and you do a little bit of horizontal and vertical tracking. So you have them go up and down, and then back in, and then you come back out. Okay, so what you're wanting to do here is look for, how are their eyes moving? Are they moving smoothly across with that object, or are they jumping? Do they go over here and then jump? That's something that is very obviously important as you're reading. So something like a phonetic approach with Orton Gillingham is not going to take care of that situation. So this is what I'm talking about, drilling down to get the root. Now, when you're coming close, you want to see those eyes moving together in and then smoothly out together. So oftentimes what's happening with the children, their eyes are working together for a little bit, then one eye goes off. If you see this means their convergence is not working right. So the image from one eye is not being put on top of the other eye. And this can cause all kinds of challenges when they're looking at a word, especially as the print gets smaller. Now, the good news about this is you can actually work on this. In our view, it's a muscle problem. It's not necessarily a muscle problem. It's a brain to muscle problem. So as you increase and you work on that and get closer for them to converge their eyes, they'll get better at that. And then they'll see things better and obviously be able to read better. So that's one thing about the eyes that we've noticed. Another is, you may have experienced this in your school when the children were very little, is they have trouble writing on a line. So if their central vision, right in the center, doesn't work well, then they're not even able to see the line correctly. So the way that you determine about this central vision is you look at the symptoms mostly. So a symptom might be They mush their words right together when they're writing. They leave the proper space. They make big letters, small letters in the same word, and they don't sit their letters on the line. Oftentimes,
yeah.
another symptom of this is not giving good eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like looking you right in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are so frustrated, and you look, and then they look at you, and then pretty soon it's like they're looking, why aren't you looking at me? And
Right.
the problem is they can't really see in the center. They turn their head so they can see. It's really not a discipline problem. It's a function problem.
That helps gain a lot more understanding. And
another thing with central vision is So another thing with the eyes is sometimes they will skip small words, or they'll put, you know, the end of one word on the middle, or the end of the first of the other word. You know, they just are not seeing correctly. So it's really not a phonics problem, and it's so confusing because it's like, you know, that says A and you just read the, and so confusing to parents because, you know, it's clearly a very small word. It should be easy, right? But because it's small, it's hard when they have this kind of issue. So that again is a developmental issue, and that can be helped. So that's again what we're talking about, getting to the root and really working there. Now, another thing that said was visual sequential processing. Now, you may be wondering, what is that? Actually, there's something called a visual digit span that this is actually on an IQ test. This test,
really,
they'll hold up a random series of numbers and then take it away and then ask, just the whole process here is sequentially getting that series of numbers, being able to hold it in your short-term memory and bring it back out. That is called visual sequential processing. So when you can see how that would be key when you're reading words that are longer, especially, and holding on to all that information.
Yeah, that's really important. And so then we have dominance issues after that.
Okay, just moving on to the next area of dominance. Some people then they're going to have a lot of challenges with their brain being organized and finding information that they need. So once a child in their hand, you have more of it, can make a lot of progress. So the hand is key to dominance. When your child is right right-handed, the most efficient thing is for them to be right-eyed. You're taking in information with both eyes, but your brain chooses one eye and ear to actually store information. So this can be, if you have a child that remembers it one day and not the next, it could be their filing cabinet is not really working well. And so they are having trouble finding that information.
Yeah, I can see where that would make
These kind of kiddos don't test well, typically. I know that. But then when they're not tested, then the pressure is off, they oftentimes remember, and it's because of the stress factor.
Yeah.
So one way that you can check your child for their eye dominance is have them look into a kaleidoscope or a small little hole. Like take a pin apart and have them look through a tiny little hole and just set it down on the table, have them pick it up and put it to their eye. So they will typically go to one eye all the time, and that is their dominant eye at near point, a close up.
Okay.
So at far point, you might use a paper towel tube. Okay, so they hold the paper towel tube with two hands, their arms are straight, and they look through that hole. Now you can just look right down that tube
and see
which eye they're using.
Oh, wow.
This can, so this will tell you what eye that they're using. And oftentimes people will find out about this, but not do anything about it. What our experience has been is that when you do something about it, and the way you do that is tell the brain, oh, this is not working too well, I have to use this one. So that is done like with a patch. So you patch their eye that's not dominant. So if they're right-handed, their right eye should be seeing all the time. You do that for about 3 or 4 hours a day. And over time, that will help that dominance to switch. And you will see amazing differences in their long-term memory.
That's really cool. Yeah. That's all new, so partially new information for me. So that's
the
really
ear.
Cool.
Well, it's just one of those things that a lot of people don't think about, but it can be so profound. It takes a long time to switch an eye. So sometimes people do it for a little bit and think, oh, it's not working. And but over time, it really will make the difference. With the ear.
Well, while you were talking about that, it made me think too about, how some people, when they get older, we do a contact in one eye that's close up and one far away. And I was thinking, I wonder if I just chose the wrong eye, and that's why that never worked for me. So just random thoughts that go through my head. But yes.
No, it's a really good point, because I actually had somebody that was a little older. She was in her 60s, I think, that I worked with. And she said, I feel like things are getting harder for me. I can't remember things. Sometimes words don't come to me. Is there something I can do?
Right.
We actually traced that back to when she got her monovision lenses. It was just confusing her brain that much.
Oh my goodness.
So Don't do lenses
Yeah, I
when
know.
you're
I went
older.
back to glasses. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. So good to know. So the next one is ears too, and you were talking about you were headed that direction. So I'll not interrupt you again.
No problem at all. It's good to right-handed, you often just go to that side. So one way you can test your child with their ear is you have somebody whisper on the other side of a door. You have them be about 6 feet away from the door and say, walk up to the door, put your ear on it, and see if you can hear what they're saying. And they'll usually, one ear or the other, and do that several times, because sometimes they might use one ear and sometimes the other. And it's basically the same as far as correcting that, is to tell the brain this isn't working too well. And the way you do that is with an earplug. So an earplug that takes about, it's not going to take all the sound out, probably about 22 decibels or something like that. And over time, the brain just keeps going, oh, this isn't working too well, I have to use the other one. And that that ear dominance will switch as well.
That is really interesting.
So, and I have to agree with you. The interest is very, when it just broadens your thinking about what could be causing these symptoms that are going on with my child. And, phonemic awareness is definitely an issue oftentimes, but that can also be something we call tonal processing, where the ear is hearing, but the brain is not interpreting those tones correctly. So can you imagine trying to sound out a word and you're not hearing the right sounds? Obviously, you can't produce that, and it's not going to help you with your reading. So there's an easy way to work on that. It's not always everything that's needed for a child, but if you get really good headphones that have ear headphones, and you play Mozart, it's got the highest frequencies and the different tones, and it really will stimulate that auditory nerve to help that processing. So that's really great as well.
That's cool. Yeah, my daughter and I were just talking about Mozart the other day and how it helps with learning. So yeah, so it's nice to know kind of a little bit more of the scientific backing on why that is. So that's really cool.
Well, to play it just in speakers, it's very calming and organizing for the brain. But when you have those headphones on, it even helps further with that, stimulation to the auditory nerve, that direct stimulation.
Oh, yeah.
You might, one thing that is very interesting to me is how quickly children can progress if we take care of some of these root causes and not just do the phonemic awareness kinds of activities. Can you show that next slide?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is the young boy that I worked with that he came home from first grade and said, I'm not a very smart little boy. And it just crushed his mom because she knew he was brilliant.
Yeah.
And so she pulled him out. She had him tested. Sure enough, he had enough of those symptoms that they labeled him dyslexic. And they did the traditional therapy for him and in a private school. But his mom said, he's just having to work too hard. It just seems like it's everything's too hard for him. I know he's smarter than that. And so when I saw him, he was 10 years old. That's 5th grade age, right? So he had 5th grade, 3rd month word recognition. So that Orton-Gillingham method, whichever one that they used, was working for him as far as decoding words. And then his comprehension was actually 6th grade.
So like his mom said,
he was
smart.
so smart.
He was really smart.
He literally had 130. Yes. When they tested him for dyslexia, they found he had like 130 IQ.
Wow.
So what we did was find out where some of the glitches were. And he worked on that program for about 16 months. But results, he's 6th grade age, and he scored 9th grade on his word recognition and 10th grade on his comprehension. So this is what we're talking about, releasing the full potential of a child. Right?
Yeah.
Now, this is not everybody has 130 IQ. So it's not just typical.
Results vary. Yeah.
So if you'll show that next slide.
Absolutely.
I can show you what we found was in the first 4 months of the neurodevelopmental intervention, they came up on average in these different age grades. See, you've got ages 8 to 10 on the bottom and ages 11 to 15 on the top. That top green one is their comprehension. So we saw where they tested when they came, and then 4 months later, they're coming up right at a year or more in math and reading. And this is with a dyslexic label. So just to put it in perspective, typically you come up a year in a year, but they came up a year in 4 months. So we can really accelerate, get these kids to the grade level they're supposed to be in quickly. If we find out which of these things are going on with them. Now, if there's just maybe one of these inefficiencies about, then they're not going to have much challenge, right? It's going to be easy for them to cope and compensate. But if then it really throws a kink in it. And one of the things that I found that is so predominant for all kids with learning struggles, and especially dyslexia, is auditory processing.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you heard of that before?
Yes. Yep. You taught me about it, actually. But maybe some of my listeners have not. So I would love for you to explain that and tell them more.
Okay, so as we saw in the visual, where you hold the visual pieces of information together, the auditory processing is holding auditory information together. So it's like you hold a piece of information together, and then you hold the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. Can you see how that is vital for use of phonics?
Right, exactly.
They have to hold this phonogram, this phonogram, this phonogram together. This is why the phonics approach to reading is very effective for some that have good auditory processing, and almost mind-bogglingly, why are they making progress for some?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is, you will see a free test kit.
Yes, and I have the website
Going to
up
give
on
you
the bottom.
instructions.
We'll put the link in the show notes too. Mm-hmm.
So give you some ways to. Okay, terrific, terrific. So, what else can we say here? By getting to the root of all of these, we can definitely bring the kiddos up. Maybe we can show that last slide.
Yeah, so I have a question
we can
for you.
see how significant.
Yeah, I have a
Sure.
question for you too. You know, as far as maybe this slide will answer that question, is do you see that, you know, kids that, you know, you mentioned so many different things. Do most kids have like a lot of them, or just a couple, or you know, or is there a certain area where that they really, you know, parents can start? Because I'm thinking, you know, as a parent is going, okay, my child is dyslexia, and then these are the things now that we have to test for and work on. But where would they start? What would be the first one to start working on, or do you kind of do them all together?
Any of your question?
Oh, he didn't hear my
I don't know
question.
if this is going to work.
Okay, so I might put it in the private chat, but why don't you talk about the slide, and then we'll see if you answer my question.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to see, sorry, hit the button. Orton did was look at the symptoms and say, how many of these are in common? I kind of wanted to do that with the children that came to me with dyslexic labels, and almost all of them, 95% were using the wrong ear. 100% of them were low auditory processing, 97% that were low auditory and visual processing was a problem for both of them. I guess what I want to leave your viewers with, it really delve into this a little bit more for themselves, is on our website. I have going to put notes that will take them directly to what we call a dyslexia bundle. And in the bundle, there's what I call a dyslexia screening. So go to that. It'll give you some information about neurodevelopment and some of the things that I've said. And then also, it will give you this, what I call a dyslexia screening. So it's got a list of things like, does your child have difficulty reading or writing or spelling? And then on the right, there are going to be some possible root causes of that particular symptom. So you can go down the list and say, my child has problems with this. Oh, it might be this, this, or this. Now, we have several resources that you can use. One is our Brain Coach Tips YouTube channel. I give a
Yes.
lot of training on there about these things, what to do about them. And so there's resources there. And then we also have free consultations. So on our website, just brainsprints.com, you can ask for a free consultation, because oftentimes parents don't really know where to start, what to do. And the thing that we've seen over the years is I've taught all this stuff on YouTube, and then people try a little bit, they do it for a week or two and they don't see any difference. What I want to make sure that people understand is the brain has what we call brain plasticity.
Yes.
Plasticity is the ability to grow and change and make new pathways. So it's like making new roads in your brain for better function. And it takes time. It takes repetition, takes frequency.
Right.
So sometimes people try a little bit and they get a little help, but they don't know that they're getting someplace, because like the telephone
because there's no evidence for a while.
wire is getting closer and closer to the phone back when there were cell phones. Not making that connection. Yes, exactly. No evidence. So that's where we can help. If there's need there, sometimes you can just take this information and deal with that one that's going on with them, that's holding their full potential back, and do that on your own. And we're glad that's a possibility. And then other times you just want somebody to walk alongside you, and that's what we've been doing for 30 years, and we're willing to do that as well.
Yeah, those are great
So
resources.
did I answer your question?
Yes, actually you did. You did, because I wanted to know about the amount of things that usually kids come in with having struggles, and that list that you went through, and that was exactly what you answered. And I didn't look at the slide before I had pulled it up. So yeah, that was a good way to wrap that up, because I think a lot of parents struggle. They're like, well, where do we start? And it looks like you kind of start in everything, because there's lots of work to be done. And so yeah, that makes sense. So yes, like you said, Jan, your website for the free auditory processing kit, and then that dyslexia bundle, I'll make sure to get links in the show notes for all those things. So you can get to Jan's YouTube channel, her website, as well as that dyslexia bundle that she shared with us. I'll get all those clickable links for you, so you can click them from either, if you're listening on the podcast, those show notes, or watching on YouTube or Facebook. So we'll make sure we got you taken care of. So yeah. So any last things that you just want to make sure our parents know or hear as they're kind of taking all this information and digesting it?
Well, I think that the main thing is to never give up. And I think that's already built in to homeschoolers. I know sometimes you get discouraged, but God does have answers for us. And as you seek, you will find. And I just want to encourage you to keep on keeping on. If something's not working, look for the next thing. But think differently. That's what I'm encouraging you here. Think differently, not just with the one solution that has been offered for 99 years, but maybe there's some other things that you need to delve into.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I love that. And I've always loved, Jan, how you look, beyond, like you said, those surface issues, and you dive deep into what was really going on here. And the neurodevelopmental approach has always been so intriguing to me for that. I interview a lot of different experts, and it's always so refreshing to talk to somebody who's like, there's really nothing wrong with the child, but there may be some rewiring that needs to happen. And I see this all the time in my studio. I actually test kids when they come in to do aerial classes, because coordination and balance and all these things are things they have to have. And there are so many kids that are wired very poorly. And I see that all the time, and I work on that with them. So, so you do what you can. But
yes. And I've thought of one more thing, if I can, just to and something else to encourage the children, because oftentimes they have an idea that they're not very smart. And that is so devastating for a mom to hear. It's devastating for them to tell themselves. So what I usually say is, oh, I just listened to a neurodevelopmentalist and I found out that you are really smart. Your brain is just tricking you at the moment.
Right.
So there's a way to fix that tricky brain. So it doesn't trick you anymore. So it kind of puts it off something else instead of them and something's wrong with me and that kind of thing. So hopefully that
absolutely
helps them as well.
Yeah. I love that. And I've heard you say that before. And I think that is exactly the point is, all of our kids are special, and there's just things, we live in a sinful world where things get in and mess things up, and we sort through them, we improve our character and our children's character through the process of navigating all of that. And if we can look at it from that perspective versus there's something wrong with you and we have to fix you, then, we come out all the better. So, love that. Well, thank you so much, Jan. Definitely go visit Jan's website, brainsprints.com, and the resources that we shared, the additional links that she shared for some of the other resources that she has, her YouTube channel and that dyslexia bundle. And Jan's got lots of resources. We're in the process of copying them all over. Our new website launches next Saturday. So when you actually listen to this recording, that new website will be up. And so we're in the process of transferring all of Jan's old content over to the new one. So you'll see them as new articles coming on over the next year, and just so much great stuff that you've written over the years, Jan, and excited to get those re-edited, put up, and introduced to more new parents as they connect on our new platform, Homeschool Heroes. So look forward to connecting with you there. So thanks again, Jan, and for all the work you do, and you just continue doing it. So God bless you.
That's my call. And thank you for all you do too, Peggy. It's amazing what you've done. And I know it's helped so many. So thank you. Absolutely.
And thank you all for joining us. We just love having you part of our SPED Homeschool community. And like I said, if you've been just joining us on Empowering Homeschool Conversations, we invite you to head over to spedhomeschool.com to check out our new Homeschool Heroes platform, where you can connect with other homeschool heroes, find people who are local, connect on topics that you're most interested in, and get the support and encouragement that you need to keep going. Just love you all, and God bless, and we'll see you next time here on Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Bye, everybody.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com